this is a gap that we are facing right now.
Thank you very much, Giga. I think this is a very valid point. I also saw some of your colleagues were nodding. I completely agree that it's very difficult. I mean, it's much more difficult in an online setting to monitor if students are behaving ethically correct when they do exams. I would like to ask you, dear Giga, and also everybody else here, how do you cope with this? What are measures that you take in order to check and monitor if students behave professionally and ethically correctly?
So we are having two kind of exams. Let's speak about the exams. So the first one is when they have writing tasks. So students are given certain time and they need to write the text and upload this. In this, we are using the similarity detection software, and we check the similarity percentages just to prevent students like sending the same text to each other. But when it comes to quizzes, where students have multiple choice questions and they have to answer it, it depends on the professor, on the faculty, and the rules are different from program to program. In some cases, lecturers ask students to use the cameras at the same time when they are making the quizzes. In some programs, they don't, because we also have problems with the technical solutions. I mean, not all of our students are equipped like with the devices, and sometimes they have problems with internet connection. So it's not easy to make this obligatory. But in some programs, it is. For instance, in medical programs, it's a must for students to use the cameras at the same time when they are making the quizzes. But in some cases, no. This is something that we cannot fully guarantee. So the practice differs from course to course. So.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just a very short comment and before I hand over to the next participant. I know that in Austria, some universities do require students to come to the university in person, and then they have them sitting with a big distance and with a mask. And so, because they do not trust that students would completely be honest in an online exam. So they avoid the online exam. So they allow the students to come, but then they have to do the disinfection, all the hygiene standards, and they wear masks and they sit in big distances. So that, this is really a challenge that we see. That was also a very good point. Yeah, I see two more raised hands. One of them is, I only see the name appearing on the chat, which is Mir Soyan 900.
Yes.
Hi.
Mirza Banane. I want to say that it was very difficult to conduct oral examinations in large group. Sometimes they lasted up to 6, 7, or 8 hours. The duration was very long. And I can say that now not only lecturers but also teachers are suffered from emotional burnout. We spend many time in front of the laptops or computers.
True. Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's a big problem also in Austria that it's really so exhausting to do everything online. Our university has started to provide us with a little help with psychological counseling also for teachers, so that and also for health programs, because for our eyes and for our back, that we get into some exercise to really get rid of this stress. It's a very big problem. Thank you. The next person on my list would be Eka. Please, Eka.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say that when I had my first midterm during this distance learning, I asked my students to put cameras in such a way in their room that I would have a possibility to see their working desk, including their computer monitor and the space where they sit. And do you know what happened? They wrote a big email to the administration as well, I guess, that I'm violating their privacy. I want to ask my colleagues here, have you ever had such experience and how do you deal with this kind of issues? Thank you.
Dear Eka, we had exactly this problem as well. Yeah. And we consulted with a lawyer who is a specialist on privacy and data protection. And he actually said, I mean, I'm a lawyer myself, but you know, lawyers hardly ever give you a very clear answer. They would always say it depends. You have to balance the different interests. But he said in general, it's a problem that we look into the private homes of the children, of the students. Yeah. So now we are not allowed to really do that. Yeah. We still can require them to switch on the cameras, but only like showing the faces of the students in that sense.
So that's what I'm doing as well right now, but I still don't feel confident. Yeah. I still think that this kind of environment does not provide exclusion of cheating, let's say. Even when I'm inside, even when I'm in the building of the university, it takes from me a lot of efforts to control everybody to avoid cheating. And now in this way, I thought that the thing that I told you before would be the best solution to avoid cheating, but I got what I got, and nowadays I don't use this. Just once again, though I use different techniques to prevent cheating, I still don't feel confident that this is working in its best way. So I would appreciate a lot to hear some different ideas, some experiences regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you, Eka. I would immediately pass on the word to the next speaker. Just one additional comment from my side. So we had the same problem. Now, what my colleagues do, my teachers, they make exams in a way that the students have very small time, so that it's really stressful for the students. So a lot of examples that they have to do in a very short time limit. And they also designed the exam in a way that you cannot go back to the previous answer. So you have, for example, you have 5 examples, and after you complete it as a student, the first one, you have to move on to number 2, and you cannot go back to number 1. So that we know the students, they are quick in exchanging the solutions. So this is not happening so much, but it's still not easy, Eka. I think you're addressing a very, very big problem. Now I have a few more people who raised their hands. Nata Brest. Nata, please.
We have opinion with work with distance examination, and I want to say that we use Google Classroom platform. It was centralization by our university, and every teachers during examination must send examination list to everybody. And it was doing in some minutes, only 1 minute. Then our rector asked us to record examination, and we save this recording, but nobody asked us to give somewhere this. And when we have a lecture by distance, of course, it's not so comfortable communication with students like in offline, not online. But I don't think that it was very difficult, because every student use camera, and some teachers decide that students can use or not can use camera. But when I ask somebody like this conference, they must put on and answer, and I must to see him, students, how they answer for my questions. I think that every students use Google Classroom, Google Meet, and Zoom. It was centralization, and this means that not so a lot of mistakes or some препятствия between students and teachers. Yes.
Thank you very much, Natalia. Now, Arina raised her hand. Please, Arina.
Okay, so I would like to mention one important thing that I felt that I noticed during my online courses, that so this online course is a good opportunity to differentiate between clever, smart, and some lazy students, because clever and smart students are very active and they participate during these online courses, and they follow our advice. They are very active. They give an active participation during these online courses, and with these students it's very easy to work and to deal with these all obstacles that they are going to encounter. They do these assignments very easily. They are very active. They are more active than during offline courses. Of course, very, very useful are presentations that you have just mentioned. That it's very important to have some presentations in order some interactions between students, because these interactions help to cooperate with students easily. And for lazy students, I think that both during online and offline courses, we deal such problems with lazy students, and they do the same cheating as you have mentioned during offline, because our students are creative and they create some cheating during offline courses. That's why I think that during both online and offline courses, if a person is eager, is willing to learn, so I think that they learn, and with smart students, we can do our online teaching. The kind of person we deal with, and in this case, can't do anything concerning cheating, because they do the same during time.
Thank you, Arina. I have to say I did not hear you very well, but I think I could understand most of it. Thank you so much. Also, those of you who can read the chat, I invite you to look into the chat, because Tamar wrote a couple of very good points into the chat. Thank you so much, Tamar, for that. First of all, Tamar wrote, providing feedback to students and quality versus quantity are the questions that I find more problematic. Yes, indeed. Yeah, indeed, especially in large student groups, it's very difficult to provide detailed feedback to each of them. It's hardly possible. Still, I would say, in my experience, it helps the students a lot if you connect with them personally to help them to go through the learning process. If possible, I would recommend it, but I think it's problematic. Yeah. Also, how to give feedback, especially if you cannot meet in person, and if you want to encourage them to be more active, if they are hiding somewhere, if they are, and also in the next post that you write, Tamar, in your opinion, introvert students were passive and silent during the online classes. Indeed, yeah, we have to consider that students have different personalities. Yeah. And it's an additional threshold. It's an obstacle for them. Also, I mean, our students, they come from a generation where they are digital natives, but still, if they write to their colleagues, to their friends on their mobile phones, it's a different story than being online with the professor. Yeah, they may not be so willing to come. And as Arina said, presentations might be very helpful. Yeah. But what would be other possibilities to encourage the passive or the introvert students? Yeah. Do you have other ideas on how to do that? Yeah.
May I here jump as you were
Yes,
reading my
Tamar.
comment? I was thinking about, yeah, I gave them writing tasks to the students, and I wanted them to be active and to also to cover the material and practice some writing skills, and so they uploaded their tasks. But as I will go back to this problem of providing feedback. So if you involve more, if you engage more, you give more activities, it means that they then you have to give more feedback. So it's a kind of a chain. Yes, you give activities, they provide you with these tasks, and then what should you do? You have to give some kind of feedback and say that I check, read, listen all this material, and you find that there is a kind of a dump of all those activities, and you are buried in all these tasks. And then I must admit that I have not checked all of their writings because it would be very hard. I was just asking them to upload all these assignments, and there were some not scored activities, and I didn't give the points for that, but they were enthusiastic and they uploaded. This was very good, but physically I didn't have time to check all those writings. And I only checked and gave points to the ones that were assigned and were in the syllabus.
Yeah, I completely understand, Tamar. This is a huge problem. I can provide one suggestion, one possible solution, what I also do in a large group. Since I cannot give individual feedback to each of them, and you're right, if you give them additional assignments, it's an additional workload, not only for the student, but especially also for you. And this is really problematic. What I often do, and I already write that into the syllabus, that peer feedback. So that if one student writes something, that it's 2 or 3 other students who have the task to provide feedback to the first student. But we also have to tell them very much in detail how the feedback must look like. Because if they write, it's nice what you wrote, it's not helpful. Yeah. So you have to tell them very clearly that they have to write 200 words. They have to comment on the structure, on the logical arguments, on the sources, and so on and so forth. So in my view, this is one possibility that I think it has 2 advantages. One of them is I do not have to provide the feedback all the time myself. So it helps me. It reduces my personal workload. The second one is because I think it's also a good learning and a skill for the students that they have to be able to provide feedback to others, because when they go out into the profession, it's also a skill that they should have, but they have to learn it. Yeah. And you have to teach them how to give good feedback. Yeah, maybe you can upload a couple of examples how the feedback should look like, how long it should be, also that you do it in a very respectful manner. Yeah, and that you also give them examples on how to write also critical feedback, but in a sense that it's still objective. It may help. I know it's not a perfect solution either, but it may help you to activate the students without a too high workload for yourself. So it could maybe be a solution.
Thank you. Yeah. Indeed, good.
Dear colleagues, I think it's great that we have so many comments. We have to watch the time a little bit. I see that we have 2 more raised hands, one by Saza. Saza, you have been waiting for a long time. I apologize, but you are the next one, dear Saza. And then by Mirsoyan 900 again. So we will have 2 more comments, and then we will go into the break. So Saza, please.
Thank you to my colleagues that they shared their experience. The same problem I have about concentration of students during the online teaching, especially when we can't to force to switch cameras because they are in their private places, and in this case for them it is good opportunity, especially on bachelor's level. On master's level, it is easier because the students are much more serious to the learning and very comfortable, I feel, with PhD students. And I think this is some kind of challenge to us. But I hear very interesting suggestions, especially writing feedbacks, and I will use it on my lectures during my teaching. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sasa. I completely agree. Of course, it makes a big difference on what level the student is. You're right. Yeah. And we realize that the ability of a student to organize him or herself properly is a key skill, even in studying online. Yeah. And they have to find a way themselves, but we can maybe help them a little bit by giving them a certain structure, especially for the bachelor students. Thank you, Sasa. Now, dear lady Mirsoyan 900, please.
Despite the fact that online learning has many advantages, it has also disadvantages, and one of them is that we have some students who has problems with visual, and it is difficult for them to sit in front of the laptop, and we must take this fact into account, that students have visual problems.
Yes, yeah, you're right. Thank you. All right, I thank everybody for listening and for contributing to the discussion. Now I think let's have a break for 15 minutes. And then we'll come back. In Austria, it will then be 11 o'clock. So whatever it will be in your country, try to be back in 15 minutes. Okay, see you soon.
See you soon.